Welcome back to the Robert Walker bookshelf. Today, we are exploring the deep historical themes behind my book, The Gallic Paradox. This is an examination of the architecture of ancient genocide, and an unflinching look at the true cost of civilization. The premise forces us to hold two conflicting truths at once. We must reconcile the sheer institutional genius of Rome with the systematic erasure of a million lives. Western civilization's administrative foundation is inseparable from the horrific human cost it required to build. To understand the conquest of Gaul, we have to look at the economics. Julius Caesar owed a staggering 1,300 talent debt to Crassus, essentially the operating budget of a small kingdom. Caesar was not defending Rome, he was paying his bills. His political survival required a war to purchase loyalty and retire his debts. The millions of lives in Gaul were ultimately reduced to line items in a ledger to balance Roman accounts. Caesar's greatest weapon wasn't just the sword, it was grammar. Think of his famous opening, Gallia est omnis divisa in partes tres. By using the passive voice, he erases the conqueror's agency, presenting the brutal division of a land as a natural fact. This third-person bureaucratic voice intentionally creates emotional distance. Caesar converted atrocities into logistical achievements, using elegant syntax as a technology to make suffering invisible. But modern science offers a powerful counter-narrative. Strontium isotopes found in remains at Kesselith prove the victims originated in the Middle Rhine Valley, completely dismantling the myth of a local ritual deposition. Furthermore, perimortem trauma, sword cuts and blunt force, indicates systematic violence at the exact moment of death. The text described an event, but the bone lived it. Forensic science finally gives a voice back to the victims Rome tried to bury in silt. Let's look at the Helvetii. The Romans claimed this was an invading horde presenting an existential threat to the Republic. The reality was very different. These were families carrying 3 months' grain, simply seeking a new home. Blocked by Caesar's 19-mile wall and slaughtered at Bibrecht, 110,000 survivors from an original 368,000 refugees were forced to walk back to the ashes of the towns they had burned. Then we have the annihilation of the Usipetes in Tencteri. Caesar devotes just 6 sentences to this event, coldly noting per possus vulneratus, very few wounded. In truth, 430,000 people were annihilated. Diplomats were detained under the sacred protection of Fides. Roman cavalry was explicitly dispatched to hunt fleeing women and children. Cato the Younger actually attempted to prosecute Caesar for war crimes, but the Senate buried the motion to celebrate a 15-day Thanksgiving instead. Perhaps the darkest chapter is the outsourced extermination of the Eburones. In retaliation for Ambiorix's victory, Caesar issued an administrative order for total erasure, demanding that the stock and name may be destroyed. Neighboring tribes were invited in to plunder and hunt the survivors, leading to the total destruction of their agricultural infrastructure. The archaeological reality is chilling, a layer of sterile soil that persisted for generations. At Alesia, we witnessed the engineering of starvation. 50,000 men built 25 miles of unparalleled field fortifications in just 3 weeks. When the Gaulish leader Vercingetorix expelled the Mandubii civilians to save grain, including a 4-year-old girl named Alicia, Caesar's sentries were ordered to hold the line. Those civilians were left to slowly starve to death in the ditch between 2 Roman masterpieces of military engineering. Vercingetorix himself unified 30 fractious tribes, enacting a brutal scorched earth strategy to starve the Roman machine. But in the end, he was reduced to a mere prop in Caesar's 4-day political spectacle. He was held in a lightless underground cell for 6 years before being strangled in the dark while the crowds cheered above. This wasn't just the loss of life, it was the erasure of an entire civilization. The Druids held complex legal, astronomical, and philosophical systems entirely in living memory. Roman suppression permanently severed this unbroken oral chain. We see the death of language itself. The Gaulish word mamia, grandmother, was slowly replaced by Latin, surviving only in the silence of the archive. The physical legacy left behind is haunting. We find iron collars inscribed with the Latin words "Hold me lest I flee." Gallic metallurgical brilliance was literally converted into the iron that enslaved 1 million of their own people. And then there are the hoards, like Le Catalan with its 70,000 coins. This unrecovered buried wealth serves as a permanent archaeological proxy for families displaced, enslaved, or slaughtered. Ultimately, Caesar's 23 stab wounds on the Ides of March could not save the Republic. The Republic was an engineering problem that Caesar solved using the wealth extracted from 1 million dead Gauls. The infrastructure of the empire, its loyal armies, its paved roads, and its absolute power, was already bought and paid for. This history refuses to deliver simple verdicts, it forces us to hold admiration and horror simultaneously. It is a masterpiece that demands we recognize that the foundation of modern Western classical education, and its elegant Latin grammar, is built upon a graveyard. The road is the paradox. It connects the world, but we cannot forget what lies beneath it. The distance between civilization's achievements and its costs has not closed. The Gallic Paradox is available now on Amazon.